Turn it off. No, what's happening? What's happening? We are here. It is finally time for the playoffs to start. It is nothing but orange and blue skies here. I'm your host, the villain himself. We're here in the building. I got my main man, my right hand man, Anthony, in the building. What up, Anthony?
What's up, Barry? How you doing? You ready for some heartburn? You ready for some
Oh
stress?
yeah, I listen. I've taken my meds. I got some extra ones that I've got on back order, so hopefully they'll be here soon.
Got
But
your
yeah,
blood
no,
pressure
I'm ready.
machine? Yeah.
I'm ready. I listen. I went through the UConn March Madness, so I think I'm ready for anything at this point. But listen, we're here. It is Orange and Blue Skies, presented by the Executives View. We're gonna be here with you for the next 40, 45 minutes or so, talking Knicks basketball, and then we're immediately followed by those 49er guys that forever faithful nation over there. Those guys, they're coming for us, Anthony. They want us on the show during the season. So I told them,
That's
listen,
a
we coming,
whole nother story.
we got the
Whole nother
smoke.
story.
We'll
Yeah.
be here. But but I'm so glad
We want all
everybody
that
can.
smoke too.
Yeah, exactly. I got nothing but smoke. But I'm so glad everybody can rock with us tonight. Talking a little bit of Knicks basketball. The regular season is in the books for the Knicks. The Knicks finished 53 wins this year. I think that was up versus last year, if I'm not mistaken. The New York Knicks basketball finished 53 and 29, second in the Atlantic Division, third in the conference. Locked up that third seed by beating Boston. We love beating Boston, even though they didn't have Jalen Brown. Doesn't matter. We don't like Boston. We like beating them. The Knicks locked into the three seed, facing the six seed Atlanta Hawks. But I mean, honestly, let's go through the regular season because we talked about it a little bit. The Knicks top five in offensive efficiency, top 10 in defense. Well, I think they're top five in defense, top 10 in offense. Either one. I think you were giving me the number, right? It was I think number
I have
three.
this. Yes.
You have it right. It was like number three offense, number seven defense, or something like that. They're top five in
Yep.
defensive points given up this season.
Third in
Um,
offense. Third in
third
offense.
in offense, right?
Yep.
So I think their point differential is there was a little over six, close to 10, over 10 at home. So a little bit worse on the road. The Knicks finished the season, I think it was 28 and 23 against some teams with a winning record. Last year they were 12 and 22. So, big plus against teams that they're supposed to beat. Their offense and defensive efficiency numbers this year were better than they were last year, but it feels like there aren't orange and blue skies. It feels like this is statistically a better team
Yep.
this year than it was last year, but it feels like I don't know, the heartburn, the pain is
Yeah.
coming, right? We talked about it briefly, but it just feels it's just a different vibe this year as it was last year. I felt like last year we expected to get to the second round and then if it was we get past that, it's house money. But I think the expectations, Anthony, has kind of lent itself to really stress on Nick fans, maybe on some of the Nick players. And while it's a better season this year than it was last year, it doesn't feel that way. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah. Expectations can be toxic, right? Because we all thought the Celtics would take the year off not having Tatum. Their culture there is so strong, their roster is so deep, they know how to build a quality roster that they had
Mm-hmm.
other plans, right? They weren't going to take the year off. And then you had Detroit. We didn't quite know what to make of them coming out of last season. We took care of them in the playoffs last year. They took a major
Mm-hmm.
step forward this year that we didn't quite expect. I mean, I think we expected them to be good. We didn't expect them to be this good. Now, do they
Mm-hmm.
become the 2025 Cleveland Cavaliers? That remains to be seen. We'll see, hopefully.
Right.
But yeah, with the ascension of those teams, we didn't expect to finish third. We expected to finish higher than those teams. But again, that's why you play the games, as Chris Berman used to say,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's because
Right. Right.
expectations are one thing in the summer, but we learned that these teams are a lot deeper and a lot better, even with the injuries, even without Tatum, even without Cunningham. These teams are so deep that are in front of us that and that January stretch, right? That's what killed us.
Yeah.
We didn't
Right.
have that
Right. Right.
2-9 or whatever it was. Who knows? Maybe we get the top seed if we didn't hit that major speed bump right in the middle of the season. But good that they got it out of the way then, because ever since then, February and March, they've looked really good. And you're right, Barry. I mean, I'm texting you all the time during these games, basically giving up on them, right? And
Right.
we're always the biggest critics of our own team. We're always looking for the biggest cracks. But it
Mm-hmm.
feels like the vibes are different. I think it's because, Barry, even though they're better in every statistical category than they were under Tibbs, even in wins, I mean, on
Mm-hmm.
paper, if you didn't watch a single game and you knew nothing about either team and you just analytically compared both years, you'd say, oh my gosh, this team is so much better than last year. But we see how they look when they're
The
playing.
eye test. Right.
It's the eye test. And they don't have those hard hats on that they had with Tibbs. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing that gets under our skins, right? With Tibbs, you never worried about them getting outworked, right? They may play teams that were better than them, but they were always going to give it 1,000% every single night. They might get outplayed, they might get outshot, but they were never going to get out hustled. They were never going to
Right.
get outworked. They were never going to be beaten in the attitude department. This
Mm-hmm.
year has been different. This year has been much more of a focus on the tangible results and
Mm-hmm.
not quite as much of the intangibles, right? And so that's unsettling to us as Knicks fans who are used to things under the Tibbs way, right? So I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I think that bothers. I think that bothers us, right? I think that hard hat mentality under Tibbs, while it served us well, it could have been a detriment because it left the lineup really short. Guys were overworked, overplayed, and he faltered by the end. So I don't. I agree with you. I think. Listen, we appreciated, especially in that Boston series, the toughness of this team to fight back from double digit deficits in game one and game two in Boston. It endeared themselves to the fans and gave us that identity. And that identity is not the same this year. Not to say Mike Brown is doing a bad job. I mean, the numbers say he's doing better. We have
Yeah.
more wins than we did last year. We have better offense and better defense. But it's just like those lulls. It's the lulls, not
Yes.
game to game, but quarter to quarter that
Yes.
really, when you watch this team, it just stresses you out.
Yes.
Um, I They can't afford that now. It's time to get it together. And I think down the stretch they played some better basketball against some better teams. And I'm encouraged by how Cat and Jalen finally have played together. And
Only took 79 games.
it
Yeah.
only took them like 70 something games to figure it out. But Jalen and Cat's 2-man game is huge for this team. I don't know anybody in the East, at least, that can handle Cat and Jalen when they're playing together like they're playing.
Yeah.
You want to say the most important player on the Knicks is Jalen Brunson, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but I think Cat has to be that guy. And I think
Absolutely.
those two have to be able to play off each other on the court. They can't hide each other like one plays for the first 10 minutes and then the other gets a break and then the other one's the number one. It's got to be Batman and Robin. It's not
Yep.
Batman and Batman.
Yep.
And, I mean, I like what I've seen out of them lately with the pick and roll. can they keep that momentum going?
Right. Yeah, I think that's because we've seen what it looks like when Jalen's having to be Batman and he's got no
Mm-hmm.
Robin, right? Sometimes
Right.
Josh Hart slips into that Robin role. Sometimes it's Cat. Sometimes it's Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
But Brunson needs a consistent guy to go to take the
Right.
pressure off him. Remember in the
Right.
Pacers series last year? I think it was the Pacers series. They would just
Mm-hmm.
trap him. We saw the
Yeah. Yeah.
Thunder do this a lot too. When the two
Mm-hmm.
games we lost to the Thunder this year,
Yeah.
they would just pin Brunson against that half court line.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the offense just shuts down. That can't
Right.
happen. Somebody has to come and help. There has to be an outlet for Brunson. He can't do it all himself. These teams are going to be ready and keying in on Jalen Brunson. They're going to send 2, maybe even 3 guys sometimes to pin him down. And somebody's got to be that Robin to his Batman. And I think Cat has the potential to be that more than anybody because of
Right.
his size. For a big man, he shoots the 40% from 3, which is amazing, especially for a big man like him.
Mm-hmm.
He shies away from contact a little bit too much, but when he's dominant, there's not many players and teams that can defend that when he's on the top
Right.
of his game. So you get those 2 guys cooking at the same time, looking for each other, knowing where each other is on the court. Offensively, that's where you're going to start to see them fix those lulls, those droughts that you talked about that they fall into far too often, where they take a quarter off offensively, can't afford doing that in the playoffs. You need that consistency. And I think they get too Jalen Brunson centric and he tries to do too much at times and shoot the ball too much. He needs to be a facilitator and find Cat, and Cat needs to hold up his end of the bargain too. And we saw that in the last few games. You could see there was a chemistry forming. I don't know why it took so long. But, I mean, just think about this, Barry. I mean, Cat, against the Hawks this season, he averaged 28.5 over 2 games that he played against the Hawks. He missed one of the 3 games. 28.5 points. 28.5 points against the Hawks was his average. That was 8 points higher than his season average. 13.5 rebounds. That was almost 2 rebounds higher than his season average.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could dominate the Hawks if he wants to. He did for those 2 games. He plays better against the Hawks because the Hawks don't have that height to match up. Then you throw Mitchell Robinson in there too, get kind of a twin tower effect. I mean, I don't know how the Hawks, and we'll get into the matchup with the Hawks.
Yeah, we'll get into the yeah, right.
But I mean, that's a real X factor for me. If you get that kind of production from Cat in this series, hopefully it could be a really short series.
Yeah, that's what you want, right? It needs to be because what's staring down to you the next round. But you can't take these guys lightly, which we'll get into. But I agree, Cat's got to be huge. I think there's other guys that need to step up. I think you need a reliable number 3. OG can be that guy. You would want it to be Bridges, but either one of those guys can take that offensive burden. And then the other one, it really just shines defensively. They both can shine defensively. That's what you want. But Cat has been consistent all year. At home and away, he averages 20.1 points a game on both home and away, right? He's been nothing but consistent. It's his lowest point per season average since his rookie year. But I think it's got to be one of his more impactful seasons of his career, right? His last 10, he's been at 18 points. But I think of late, his numbers are starting to pick up. It's just how he's playing off of Jalen Brunson and getting that pick and roll going, right? But I mean, all in all, I think his numbers are down, but he's got to put that aside, and he's got to remember that he was an all-star, and he can be that guy that dominates because he's got to be able to help. He's got to be able to help Brunson, to your point. When he gets pinned down in the corner, he's got to be a threat. And I think it's been frustrating for him because the offense isn't moving through him. But, all right, accept the role of getting the points off the glass and being that next option and dominate that way. All it takes is 10 buckets to get to your average, right? So I think he needs to
feed him
accept
early, too, I think. Cat is
but I mean, they can't do it in spite of themselves, right? They can't force feed him out of the flow of the offense, right? He's got to let it come to him, but not to that lull. When we were texting, like he just looks like he what just disappeared on purpose. Like he didn't want to shoot in the first half. We can't have that.
Right.
It playtime's over.
Right.
So he's got to be forceful. He's got to get it moving. Um, One thing I think we talked about really quickly is OG. Right? He's had a really great year. I hope he should be an all defensive player. I don't see any reason why this guy is not an all defensive player. Defensive player of the year candidate, probably not. I mean, we know who's going to be a defensive player of the year. That guy in San Antonio. But this OG should be first team player. But he did suffer an ankle injury against the Boston Celtics. I think you alluded to it when we talked earlier that he's day to day. Hopefully he'll be ready. Like the best thing that could happen is they rest up. They have a whole pretty much a week off until the playoffs start for them on Saturday, I believe. So, OG's injury. Are you worried about it, or you think we'll be fine?
Not too worried. The week off is good timing. We all know OG's got a history of injuries.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. We got to have him.
We got to have him. I think, and again, we'll talk about the Hawks matchup. I don't, with the Hawks speed, we need someone like him that can stay with defenders. Because with the Hawks speed, especially, they're going to try to penetrate to the hoop. They're going to try to get easy baskets. They're going to try to push things up tempo. Anunoby helps kind of break that a little bit. He breaks that up tempo play style that Quinn Snyder wants to play. So he's important to this series. He's important for the whole run, but he's important especially for this series. And again, his ability to score, his ability to shoot threes, even though his offensive numbers are down a little bit, he's always that threat from the wing, right? And we need that too. So yeah, I'm not too worried. I think he'll be okay, but will it be in his mind? That's the thing. Like, will he be able to come out Saturday, play free and easy, not think about it, not worry about it? Or is he going to hold back a little bit because it's game one, right? Maybe he doesn't want to put too much out there at once. So he might get off to a bit of a slow start as he's trying to feel his way. We got to be ready.
I mean, his offensive numbers are down, but near his average, right? His career, he's only like a 13-point scorer, but lately he's been in the 16 to 18 range, and he's at 16 points a game. Again, we're not asking him to score, but he is efficient. Like field goal percentage is about 48%. Defensive rebounding is pretty high. He averages 16, 5 and 2. So he can get to the basket, slashes. Can knock down the three, which is something that we want to see him do with more regularity. But it's just the intensity that he plays with on defense. He can guard all 5 positions, and that's an invaluable guy, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I think he eased my worries. I was a little concerned about his injury, but not too much. I think he'll be ready to go. If not, don't have to play him heavy minutes to start. Just kind of get him going, and we'll see where it goes from there. But listen, the cat's out of the bag. This wasn't a likely matchup. I think in all intents and purposes, everybody thought that the Raptors were going to lock in that 6 seed, but they made a move and they got to the 5 seed. They get to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Knicks get a really feisty, they get a really scrappy, a really athletic Atlanta Hawks team. The Knicks were 5-0 against the Raptors. The Knicks were 2-1 against the Hawks. 2 wins at home at their home in Atlanta, 2 close wins, and then a blowout loss at home to Atlanta. That's the frustration of being a Knicks fan. That's
it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell right there, right? But they get the Hawks in the first round. The Hawks are, like I said, this was a team that when they traded away, Trae Young, you thought they're not going to do much. But then they went on a furious run, and they played some really good basketball. I think getting McCollum back added the leadership and the veteran leadership that they weren't getting from Trae Young. Obviously, he was hurt, but they just weren't getting it, right? So they got that from McCollum. I like him on this team. Jalen Johnson is a problem. 22 points, 10 rebounds a game, and 7 assists. He's the total package. He's a stud. Love watching him play. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the guard, he is a problem. Him and Johnson, these two, they got 2 pieces that you're really gonna love watching, and you're gonna love seeing them play together. Kuminga came in, only played 16 games for the Hawks, but he looks like the guy that should have been in Golden State, right? But Alexander Walker, 20 points a game. He can light it up. He can fill up the stat sheet. So this is a Hawk team that some people are picking to beat the Knicks in the first
Mhm.
round, and they defend. That's one thing I do like about the Hawks. They're athletic. They defend. That gives the Knicks problems. Those guys like Detroit. Detroit's a physical defender, but they have length. They have athleticism. They can stay with you 1 through 5. They can switch and still guard you on the outside, and that's something that the Hawks do. They get in passing lanes, and they're really scrappy. So, talk to me about this first round
Yep.
matchup. What are you going to see? What are you looking for against the Hawks?
Yep. I'll be honest. I don't know. Like you listed off those players. I knew about Kuminga. I knew about McCollum. That's all I really know about the Atlanta Hawks. And even though they were middle of the pack in those stats that we talked about earlier, I think you got to look at like the trade deadline on, because they've been a totally different team the last 2 months than they were the first 4 months, right? So you really have to look not at the whole season that Hawks had, but the last 2 months especially. This is, again, where Cat needs to just ball out, because we've got the height advantage on these guys. They're fast. They want to slash. They want to get to the basket. They want to play up tempo. But we have the height advantage with Cat and with Mitchell Robinson. In the 2 wins, we out-rebounded them by a mile. Like I went through the stats earlier. Cat performed much better against the Hawks than he did on average. So Cat could feast against a team like this. This is a good matchup for Cat. It's a good matchup for Mitch. They can get those guys going. That's where Brunson needs to be able to take a step back. Maybe instead of getting 30 a game, he's got to settle for 20 and let Cat and Mitch eat too, because I don't think the Hawks have an answer in the paint for those guys. So I want to see those guys living in the paint and really taking advantage of that height disparity and getting easy high percentage shots there. I think that's going to be the surest way to beat these guys, because they just want to run. They want to, they play small, they play fast. That's the kind of game they want to play. We've got to be able to slow it down, make it more of a half court game, dominate that paint, dominate those boards. When we do those things, we're unstoppable, especially against a team like this.
But move the basketball, right? Like you want to slow the pace down, but it's got to be, the ball's got to not stick. It's got to move. You got to keep them on their toes. It's a long series. It's a game of adjustments. That favors a team like the Knicks, a veteran, experienced team. But to your point, Cat's got to dominate. He's got to dominate the paint. Like he's got to be able to play the 5, dominate the paint, get those offensive rebounds, get those putbacks, and not allow them to get a long rebound and run up and down the court. Right. So I think that's one thing. I think Mitchell Robinson is going to be a big piece too. I think he can be really dominant in the playoffs, and then he can be like a detriment because of his offensive limitations. He's a sub 50% free throw shooter, but I think him off the bench is going to be huge. Speaking of which, what are you looking at with the Knicks rotation? So Mike Brown has gotten killed this season for the rotations that he had, playing a lot of guys, not playing guys enough minutes, or playing what have you. I think lately he's kind of stuck to a 9-man rotation. He's moved some guys in and out as, you had game time decisions and injuries and all that good stuff. But, he's kind of stuck with, I think, the 9 guys that he's going to ride and then move a couple guys here and there. As maybe foul trouble dictates or as matchups dictate. But I mean, what do you think about the rotation for the Knicks right now?
I want to see more Tyler Kolek. Free Tyler Kolek, man. I think.
I mean, I don't. Is there minutes for him though? Yeah, like, is there minutes for him? Because so you got Brunson. You got Towns, you got OG, you got Bridges, you got Hart. That's your 5 starters, right? Typically. But then you got Mitch, so that's 6. Then you got McBride, who's back. That's 7. He's your first guard off the bench.
Clarkson.
Landry Shamet is a guy that can shoot and provides that veteran experience and is a pretty good defender too. That's your 8. He's been riding Jordan Clarkson.
Yep.
That's 9.
Yep.
Right? But you can't forget about Grand Theft Alvarado,
Right.
right? That's 10 right there.
Yeah.
So that's not even mentioning Kolek and Diawara.
Right.
Diawara, who played some really good basketball and had stretches, but lately he's been struggling a little bit. But you got 9 guys, and then the 10th guy is Grand Theft, and you have to find minutes for him because
You
he's a
do.
defensive
Yes.
ball hog. So does Tyler crack that 10-man rotation?
It's funny. I don't know what to think about Jordan Clarkson. Some days he's very streaky shooter, and I almost, against the Hawks, I would favor having more size. So maybe having Diawara as part of the rotation, at least in this first round, to really take advantage of that height disparity. I'd be willing to see more of Diawara, even if it meant less of Jordan Clarkson. I'd even be willing to elevate Kolek above Clarkson, even though that's probably not going to happen. I think Mike Brown doesn't like Kolek's inconsistency on offense, right? I mean, he can pass the ball really well, but he still doesn't have the best shot. Jordan Clarkson can come off the bench and hit a shot, right? I think Mike Brown likes
exactly
that.
What you need, because that second unit needs that offensive punch when you have Brunson and Cat on the bench.
Right. But it's the playoffs. We faulted Tibbs for not going deep enough into his bench. I think we got to be prepared to have a 10-man rotation in the playoffs. I really do. I think I like the 9 that we have, and I know Brown wants to keep things simple and not open it up to everybody, and I'm not suggesting that either. But probably a 10-man rotation, like the one you just described with Diawara in the fold as well. I think I like seeing Diawara get some minutes here. I do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first big definitely is Mitch, right? And the first guard has to be McBride. Yep. I'm so happy to have him back, and it looks like he's starting to round in the form that he can be huge off the bench for us, right? Yep. I think like Grand Theft has got to be at the first point off the bench, right? Miles is the 2. I think Grand Theft is the backup guard and can play with Brunson a little bit, right? They play well off each other on the court. I think you're right. I think Clarkson's minutes are probably diminished a little bit if you want to bring in Diawara off the bench, or if you want to find minutes for Shamet, right? Because Shamet would be the third guard. I think he's probably the second guard off the bench, and Grand Theft would be the third. That's usually how it goes. But both those guys have to get minutes, Landry and Grand Theft.
I like that mix.
Yeah, I do like
nice
that mix
blend
too.
of height and speed when you got Diawara and Alvarado and Shamet running things. That's a nice blend. I like that.
I like them as a second team. I like those two together. They play well together too. So, I think you have Clarkson. Maybe his minutes isn't as high to start, and then when you need the points, you give him heavier minutes. I've seen him play heavier minutes in the second half, especially if the Knicks are down and looking for answers, looking for offense. So
I definitely see Clarkson as the odd man out. I do. I hate to hate, and I don't have anything against the guy. I think he's been a great Knick so far. He's been a great teammate. He's just kept his head down, despite drops in minutes. He's handled it well. But I just don't think he brings as much as those other guys that you just talked about.
But I think if there's something, like I said, it's going to be like foul trouble, right? If you look up and you see OG or Miles in foul trouble, Diawara and Clarkson are going to play heavier minutes. Yep. So I think there was a stretch.
Cat gets into foul trouble.
When Cat gets in when. Yeah. Because we know what happens. Then you have that big coming off the bench. That's when Diawara is going to start peeling some of those minutes back, right? And then maybe Clarkson's minutes come down if Cat gets into foul trouble. Clarkson had a stretch during the year where he didn't play a lot of basketball. And then he wasn't getting it run at all. We thought we were going to trade him away or what have you. And now, then he comes back. They needed him off the bench. He has a heater in Utah. He I think at 18 or something points, whatever, and then he started to play himself back into the rotation. So that's where the veteran like him, I like the fact that he doesn't need to play, but he's always ready. And I think that's a trait of a lot of the Knicks players. Always ready to go.
He is fearless. I will say about Clarkson.
Oh, absolutely.
He'll keep hoisting it up. I remember he came in that NBA Cup championship against the Spurs. He knocked down some huge shots in that game. In a high pressure situation, so that was kind of a preview. I think. of what we could.
Exactly. So we needed those minutes from him. But I mean, so who is so you mentioned Cat as possibly an X factor for the Knicks in the playoffs. I don't disagree with that. We know we talked about Cat, right? His importance. We need what we need from him to to make a run, a long run, right? We need Cat to be that number two without question. That's the obvious answer. But who else do you think is a very important piece for this Knicks team to get past the first round, get past the second round, and get ultimately to the finals?
If we could get the Mikal Bridges that we got against the Celtics last postseason, because he's really struggled now since I would say Christmas. Mikal
Yeah,
Bridges.
yeah, yeah.
If we could finally get him back, so to speak, that adds an element, a layer to this team. And I'm not ready to give up on Bridges because if you remember last year, he kind of had a down regular season too, and then he really came on in the playoffs against the Celtics. Right. We don't win that Celtics series without Mikal Bridges, in my opinion. I think I was texting you at the time. I was like, who cares about the picks? Like the way this guy's playing, give them all the picks they want because this is the Mikal Bridges that we asked for, right? So if we can unlock that again, and then you get Cat doing Cat things, Brunson's Brunson, Hart, is always going to hit big shots and big moments. Mitchell Robinson's just going to dominate the rim. But you throw Bridges in there, that's been kind of the missing piece, in my opinion. You've seen all the other guys do pretty well. Bridges has yet, in my opinion, to consistently join the party. If you get Bridges joining the party and getting these other guys playing the way they've been playing, man, this is going to look like a much different team than we've been critical of, right? So,
yeah, it's crazy because like you're not going to get the Bridges that you saw in Brooklyn that lit it up. I think he had that one season when he was traded from Phoenix to Brooklyn. When he got to Brooklyn, I think it was like a small sample size, about 20 some odd games. He averaged about 26 points a game. And then the next year, he was just under 20 points. You're not going to get that from Mikal Bridges. You traded for him to get that. But when you traded for Cat, you forfeited Mikal Bridges being a 20-point a game guy, right? So, but when you look at his stats quietly, he's shooting the three better this year than he did last year. I mean, this year he's 37% from three. Last year was 35%. He's rebounding a little bit more. He's 3.8 this year. He was 3.2 last year. His assists are basically even, 3.7 assists per game, right? His blocks are up. His steals are up. His, everything is up except the points. His points went from 17 to 14 points. And everybody's up in arms. We traded 6 picks for this guy, blah, 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 blah. You're not asking him to be the 1A to Brunson. You're not asking him to be the 2. You're barely asking him to be the 3.
Right.
If you want to be critical. I mean, OG is more than 3 than
OG's
Mikal.
More than 3. Yeah.
Right. So, but to your point, if you can unlock this guy, I don't care if he gives me 15 points a game. But if he does it efficiently, if he's hitting over 50% from the field, if he's hitting 40% from 3, but then he's also contributing with the rebounds and assists and everything and being a factor on offense, that makes this Knicks team from a really good team to a finals team.
Well, and one thing you didn't mention is his biggest strength of all, his defense.
Exactly.
His on-ball defense is one of the best in the game. Like you get that kind of performance from him. He can lock guys down defensively like we've seen before.
Right.
Man, I mean, that's because we've always been critical of Mike Brown's defenses a little bit. Everywhere Mike Brown has been, and even this season, even though they finished with a higher defensive rating this season than they did last. Go figure. But, again, the eye test, right? They give up a lot of threes. Right. They give up a lot of easy shots. If Mikal Bridges can lock in on that side of the floor, we don't need big offensive contributions from him. We just need him getting steals, intercepting passing lanes, staying with guys, suffocating them like we know he can do. That's a whole other part of his game that he can unlock. And that brings us to
the problem is that he plays the chaser a lot. The rotations for the Knicks, the defensive rotations get to be really sloppy where you got 2 guys running out to the corner 3 because somebody missed the rotation, somebody's late. he doesn't get to take advantage of his real skill because of the switching and the pick in
True.
how they defend the pick and roll, how they defend certain drop coverages and all that stuff. He's not an on ball defender as much as he gets screened off and he has to switch instead of getting over the screen and staying on, right? So his strength on the defensive side is what gets exposed because they play to his weakness. It's the
Right.
switching, and he has to rotate and do a
Yeah.
lot of moving around. So that's on Mike Brown to figure it out, and I hope he's figured it out lately. But again, the Knicks you see the sloppy rotations. You see guys shooting wide open threes, but a lot of teams do that. They do rotations. A lot of teams shoot wide open threes, and then they start top 5 in defensive efficiency.
Hmm.
So, but I agree with you. If Bridges is the difference. I want him 15 points a game. I don't need any more than that.
Yeah.
I'll take 12 points a game, 10 points. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If he could lock in defensively, him and OG Anunoby can lock in defensively, this makes it a different team. Because you brought those two together to be wingstop to guard the Boston Celtics. This team is designed to beat the Celtics in the playoffs.
Yep.
And you want Bridges to play to that strength and play to that level. But I agree with you. If he can get going, I mean, there's other guys too. If I can get contributions from McBride off the bench offensively, that's a big lift. Mitchell Robinson with his energy, he brings the energy off the bench. When he does that, this Knicks team is really tough to defend, right?
The pressure is going to be on Bridges a little bit because he's a starter, right?
Right, exactly.
When you're a starter in this league, you can't do what he did a few weeks ago, throwing up goose eggs. I think he did that on more than one occasion. You can't be an NBA starter and have no points. You just can't do it. We're not asking you to score 40, but you can't have 0. It just can't happen. So
and I'm trying to be delusional like Stephen A. Smith. I'm not delusional like he is and think we got all these picks for Bridges. He's got to be 20 and 10. I get lost with that.
No.
Listen, he affects the game in so many other ways, and that people like him should know better.
Right.
And I think Hart defends him and justifiably so. So as long as he is a factor and he makes his presence felt, he doesn't need to fill up the stat sheet. But if you say his name like you did at the end of the game 1 and game 2 last year against Boston, then we're talking about something.
And I do think he has that ability to elevate his game. That's why I'm not ready to give up on him yet. Now, if he throws up stinker after stinker in the playoffs and we barely hear his name called, then we can have a discussion. But
yeah, we'll be having a discussion. I know you'll be like, get rid of this guy, he stinks, get him out of here. So I know we'll be having that discussion. But I mean, listen, the Knicks, opened the playoffs round 1 against the Atlanta Hawks. Last year, this Knicks team played with house money and took it to the Eastern Conference Finals. The owner, Mr. Dolan, put the gambit down in January that this team needs to make the finals. You made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and it got Tibbs fired. And changes were made and it got Mike Brown hired. So listen, it was all set up for the Knicks to make a run at it with Boston, being hurt. Boston playing unbelievable basketball. They didn't think Detroit was going to do what they were going to do. At the beginning of the season, it was the Knicks and everybody else. It was the Knicks in the field. And now that's not the case right now. The Knicks have a fight to get to where they need to go. What do you think this Knicks team can do this playoff season?
I mean, I think
not the hard question, right?
They have to make it to the finals. I'm sticking by those expectations. I know we're the 3rd, and Detroit was much better than we thought, and Boston didn't have that off year. We've proven we could beat Boston. So it's not unreasonable to expect that again. Detroit, that's going to be a much tougher matchup for us. But I'm telling you, we got to dig deep and we got to find a way to make it to the finals. I don't care what happens in the finals. We can get swept for all I care. We got to get there. We got to get. I don't think the expectations have changed, nor should they change. This is a really good team, a really deep team. They brought Mike Brown in to be the guy who was going to get them over the top. We all agreed that last year Tibbs was not a championship coach. So they brought in Mike Brown thinking that he is that coach. They have to get that done. You have to at least just get to the finals. And if they don't, I wouldn't want to be Mike Brown. I'd be dusting off my resume if I was Mike Brown, because I
Which
think,
is crazy because he
yeah,
got us more wins this year than he did last year,
yeah,
and
I know,
he's
and
got
an NBA
all
Cup.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, an NBA Cup. Everything is in his favor, but the expectations are the expectations. Like, listen, I'll be honest with you. Going to the finals, the only team if we make it to the finals that I'm worried about are the Thunder. I think
yeah,
we proved we can beat every other team. Now, have we struggled game to game against like Minnesota or Houston? Absolutely. But we've also beaten up on Denver. We've beaten up on San
yeah,
Antonio.
yeah.
We lost games to the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't. They ain't going nowhere. Um, Austin Reeves and Luca Tubby. I mean, Luca Doncic they're not they're not doing anything. So I agree with you. Listen, this Knicks team has to make it to the finals. But what do I expect, and what do I think will happen? Maybe those are two different things. I think this Knicks team can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they
Mhm.
will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they'll get past the Hawks. I think the Hawks will give them a fight. I think it'll be the Knicks in six. I think that, and then we go on to the next round, and then to the next round there. And I think we'll take our chances. But to your point, we can't anything less than the Eastern Conference Final is a failure. And I think that's where a lot of Knicks fans are feeling right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, for this playoff or this series, I got the Knicks in six. What do you got?
That's exactly what I have. Knicks in six. I don't think, even though the Knicks, I think, are a much better team, nothing ever comes easy with us. Even if we win the first two games, even if
Yep.
we look unstoppable, the Knicks are going to have a clunker in there somewhere, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
two clunkers. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say Knicks in six. They can never make it too easy.
I feel like it's going to be Knicks up 2-0. They'll lose game three. They'll be up 3-1. They'll lose game five, and then they'll get game six on the road
That's
and
exactly, yeah.
put it to
That's
bed.
what we
That's
saw
how
against
I feel.
Detroit and
Yeah,
Philly 2 years ago. That's what they do. When they
exactly.
have that clinching game at home, that's why I was nervous against the Celtics in game six
Yeah,
last year. I thought we might lose
yeah,
that game
yeah,
and
yeah,
win
yeah.
it on the road in game seven, but thankfully we clinched it in six. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was. Yeah,
I see that too.
yeah. I see it, and but I'm hoping for better. But listen, it's going to be a tough series. The Hawks are a good team. Nothing but respect for them. But this is the Knicks' time. This is why you put this team together. This is why you fired Mike. Tibbs. This is why you passed on Cat because you thought this team. You gave it a shot and you thought it can get to the finals. So that's exactly what they need to do. Listen, it's been a crazy regular season. A lot of stress. I got extra, like I said, I got my pills. Bring me down. My pressure's going to be down. I told the doc, jump it up a little bit for this until June, hopefully until June, to keep everything regulated. But it's been a fun year. Orange and blue skies. I love doing the show with you. Shout out to Joe T. Couldn't make it tonight, but I'm sure as the playoffs get moving, we'll schedule more shows and he'll pop on through. The homie, brother from another mother, my main man Joe. Shout out to him. But Anthony, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing the show. Obviously, this is our show. We shine here in orange and blue under orange and blue skies. We shine, man. This is where we do our thing. But give us a plug, give us a close as we get
Yeah,
on
no,
out of
I
here.
appreciate the invite, Barry. Always happy to help. And I appreciate you sticking with me through all my apocalyptic texts saying the season's over. Well,
Yeah.
I'm on the verge of burning my jersey. Thank you for kind of bringing me back off the ledge.
Yeah.
I'm going to be asking you to do more of that, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my phone's gonna go crazy. I'm like, it's gonna be quarter to quarter. I mean,
You
it's,
might want to
you have
mute
no
me
idea.
during these games and you don't get too much of me.
Absolutely, but thank you. I appreciate you, Anthony.
Thanks, Barry.
All right. Listen, thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Last minute, we just had to do something. It's Knicks playoffs. We had to talk about it. We had to get something going. But I appreciate everybody for stopping through. Um, orange and nothing but orange and blue skies. It may be a little cloudy where you're at, but it's orange and blue skies where we're at. We're talking Knicks basketball. So listen, rock with us all playoffs. We'll be doing more shows. We'll have some more analysis, all that good stuff. Stay tuned with us on this network. You got the 49ers, forever faithful Niner Nation. They're doing their show. So make sure you listen to those guys. They do a great job. Their first episode was great. It was a hit. We're coming for you guys. We'll see you during the regular season. We'll get my Giants hat. We're gonna come for you guys. But I appreciate everybody rocking with us. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy the play-in. It's a great time for basketball. A lot of fun stuff going on there. But like I always say, it's cloudy where you're at, but it's nothing but blue skies here in New York. Holla at your boy. I'll see you later.